All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Command Your Brand Show. I'm your host, Josh Silvestro, brand ambassador of Command Your Brand, where we talk to CEOs and founders about and get them on top-rated podcasts. So if you guys like this stuff, please like and subscribe to us. Before we get into this stuff, please definitely like that because it definitely helps the channel out. So today's episode, actually, I have a very special guest speaker who I've actually been talking to, and I know a lot of friends of mine have been talking to, and I'm really interested in kind of getting her feedback on this. So, she's she's a CEO and founder of herself. She's actually kind of like a health coach, and she helps businesses with health and all the things around that. So I actually introduce you guys to Dawn. So Dawn, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, Josh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So I guess we'll first start off for people that don't know who you are and want to get to know you a little better. So could you just, I guess, tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, and like why you started the company that you did today?
Absolutely. Thanks. Thank you. So I raised and born in New Jersey. And and I spent 30 years working in corporate America, but don't tell anybody because I really am only 25 years old. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
No, but I spent 30 years working in corporate America. I worked for pharma companies. I worked for IT companies. I had a little entrepreneurial background too. And I was in the entertainment world as well.
Wow.
Fast forward, I had a little bit of a personal health issue. And when my doctor had given me a few red flags about my blood sugar level and also my weight, I took it very seriously. And I decided to, go on a program. And that was the entrance to me coming into this field of health and wellness and nutrition. There's other reasons too, but I became a health and wellness coach about 5.5 years ago, and it morphed into corporate wellness because I just had such major experiences working in corporate America for all those years, Josh, that I said, I want to help the professional and that person who's out there. Outside of my professional world, you asked me to tell you a little bit about myself. Married 30 years, and I have 3 sons who are all over the age of 18. So,
wow, there you go.
Yes.
That's awesome. So I guess I would love to talk about you and just, also about your business, because I know your business revolves around health and the health goals that, people provide. So, I know a lot of people, like especially this year, I know last year has been very heavily focused on health and how to be healthy and living healthy in our lives, and especially people who listen to us are mostly CEOs and founders, and they're just such a busy schedule and like, how do I deal with all these things? And I guess, what is your successful actions in keeping yourself healthy, but also, making sure that people around you also stay healthy? Like, what do you do for that?
So I think it's really important to be very organized in terms of planning time to exercise, getting in healthy motion, making sure that I have the right foods in the house to eat. Also, making sure that I'm getting enough sleep. And that is not something I was always great at. Because I seriously, I'm like, I only had 6 hours of sleep and I've been working, all these hours. And I thought that was a badge of honor, but that truly was working against me. So I feel as though like meal prep is extremely important. So in order to be able to work an entire day or to do whatever that person does during the day, my clients, I tell them, I said, whatever you're doing, I said, make sure you take some time on a weekend or a day in which you're not heavily loaded and purchase your food, chop up your vegetables, make sure you know what you're going to have in advance. So that comes in with the organization. And then I said, have it ready so that when you get home from work, whether it's 6, 7, 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you could just quickly whip something up together, or maybe it's already cooked. That's one thing. Exercise is key. I tell people, my busy professionals who I work with, many of them say, I'm so busy, I want to exercise, and it's so hard. I typically, what I like to do is find out, what does your life look like? Okay. And they might explain to me, I work in an office, and I literally say, like, well, where do you sit in the office? How big is your building? And I'm like, okay, you don't get to, if you're not able to exercise, you get to run the stairs. You get to walk the stairs up and down. So I try to find solutions for that busy executive who's always traveling. Throw a jump rope in your suitcase. So things like that. So people around me, family who lives with me, I encourage them to make sure they're getting a lot of protein so that they feel really good. 20 to 30 grams of protein in the morning, afternoon, evening, not to really load themselves up with the carbs, that type of thing. Take that multivitamin amongst other things too, Josh.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting too, because, some people, I know probably all the people that you work with all have different beliefs and ideas of how things should work. And it's funny is even as I grew up, because I'll be 30 in July, by the way, FYI. But it's
Happy
funny is
birthday
that,
soon.
well, exactly. So, but what's kind of funny is that, people have different ideas of how food should work and what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. And also vitamins. I find that people have a really interesting idea about vitamins that they're just trying to fill in the vitamins. And actually a lot of people don't know what vitamins to take because they're just so uneducated about how vitamins work and what foods has what vitamins. So I guess do you feel vitamins play a role in how our diet is and how our, how we should eat and stuff like that? Or do you think it's just all from foods?
I think vitamins and supplements are extremely important. I think it's important also to work with your physician.
Yeah.
To have blood work drawn, see where there's deficiencies and so forth. I really truly feel that the American diet lacks a lot in terms of nutrients. Yeah. And even though we all have the best intentions, some of our food supply has been compromised. And, and what I mean by that is our body might not be absorbing all the nutrients that we are eating. We might be eating something very healthy. And when I say compromised, the nutrients might not be what they are meant to be or what we think they are. And I'm not going to go into depth and detail about that. But what I do think is it's important to take a multivitamin. There's a lot of great foods out there that are really, rich in nutrients, the fruits, the vegetables, the proteins, the whole grains, amongst other things too, dairy. But everybody has a different type of a diet. And there could be nutrients. Maybe there's a person who doesn't eat much protein. Then they could probably benefit from a supplement. Maybe there's somebody who doesn't really like their vegetables. There's a lot of people out there who don't care for vegetables. A supplement is definitely necessary. I just started taking some magnesium, and I can tell you that my sleep has improved over the past week.
Yeah.
And my husband, who's not in the health and wellness field, he's like, you really should try this. And I did. And I'm like, wow, that made a big difference for me.
Yeah. Do you think diet also has to do with sleep as well and just the overall how you operate? Because I know for me, what's kind of interesting. So I used to, as a kid, as we grow up, we're like, oh, we eat whatever we want. And as you get older, you kind of realize, the things that we eat don't really agree with us anymore. So it's kind of for me, I've mostly been a meat eater and just kind of been eating meat because I found that was the best protein and how I operate. Mm-hmm. Do you find obviously everyone is different from your perspective of how I should ingest things, but what is your take on, because there's people who think the processed food is fine, but some people think that processed food isn't fine. What is your take on that?
So in terms of processed food, I usually like to recommend to people that they should shop on the outer aisle of the grocery store. And what I mean by that, that's where all your fresh food is. Now, with that said, in terms of processed foods, depends on what it is. Because if we even purchase pasta, if we purchase anything on the inner aisle, it doesn't mean it's bad. A protein bar, a protein shake, it's been processed because it's not in the natural form that it grew or whatnot, or like in an egg, it was, the chicken laid the eggs. That type of thing. Yeah. So in terms of process, I like to say go whole foods, but I think that there's some amazing foods out there that have been altered from their original form that are packed with vitamins and minerals. And in certain instances, we're not always able to get fresh foods. So reading the labels, and knowing what you're eating and looking at the vitamins and so forth and the nutrition label, I think that's extremely important.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're a big meat eater.
Yes.
somebody close to me has been very successful on the carnivore diet recently. But yes, there's everybody has a different way of doing things.
Yeah, it's kind of funny is I don't know if you know this, but Jen, who's actually my stepmother, is actually a health coach also. I don't know if you knew that, but
I
it was
don't think
kind
I
of
knew
funny.
that. That's cool.
Yeah. So, but she actually, she's right now, going through some changes in her life where like basically the food that she eats is like, not agreeing with her. So she's sort of like trying the carnivore diet and like, anything else outside of it just hasn't affected her and it's kind of slowed her down. So it's kind of interesting how some people just can't really accept food anymore, like certain terms, because like it's just so heavily processed or there's stuff inside of it, like in our vegetables or whatever. And it's kind of like, what do you do with all that? It's like, it's so hard to keep track of what's processed, what's been put in, what hasn't been put in,
I agree with you 100%. There's so many questions out there, and I'm hoping to see that the future will be brighter in terms of the questions that we have about foods being compromised and what's good for us and what isn't good for us. You and I might be aware of it, but in terms of people want the general person, they want the information. They want to know that what they purchase is healthy, and
Right.
I think that that's super important.
Yeah. What do you find? Because I obviously now I guess on the business side, right? Because your main thing is that you help corporates in the whole field of their businesses becoming healthy. I guess how does your process work in terms of like getting that actual being the wellness of a company? How do you make it operate per your standards? I guess you can say.
Absolutely. So the first thing I do is I take an assessment. I understand where the company is, what their vision is for their employees.
Yeah.
And that usually aligns to their mission. Everybody wants to be more productive, more successful, and also happy, healthy employees equate to a healthier bottom line for the company. So after learning about what that leader wants for their company, perhaps they want to lower insurance costs. Perhaps they are seeing burnout, stress. Maybe they need their employees to be more motivated. And generally they might say, I just want these employees to feel healthy and I want to help them. And so then at that point, what I typically do is, there's a couple of different things that I do is number one, we'll look to see, what their current situation is in terms of physical activity. Are they offering anything? Do they have a gym? Number two, what do they have in their cafeteria? What do they also have in terms of, like right out on the main floor where everybody works is the snack table filled with, Reese's peanut butter cups and chocolates and nuts.
Man.
Because that's tempting, or is it filled with healthier? And if the leader says I'd like to, make it a little bit healthier, then I support them on that. But one of the biggest parts of my program is I run employee wellness challenges, and they are a lot of fun. So typically 4 in a year, focusing on nutrition, physical activity, mindfulness, getting through the stress of the holidays. And we make it fun and also slightly competitive, but in a way that it's gentle, whether it's you have a world-class athlete working at the company, Josh, or whether you have somebody who hasn't seen the gym since high school, it doesn't matter. It's about participation. And in this situation, to participate, you win. And if you participate in tracking your nutrition and activity, so without going, deep into what I'm doing, I run these challenges. I'm in communication with all the employees. And we use technology. We use an app. We have meetings, and then I run 6-week challenges throughout the year. So there's 4 of them. And then in between, I do trainings. I bring guest speakers in, and that's a lot of fun too.
Right.
There's one person who I will be collaborating with, and he is an Olympian, and a wrestler, and he is a jump rope specialist. He's one person. Just recently, I brought a yoga instructor in, she's an international yoga instructor, and she does retreats. And I brought her into a company, and I did a mindset talk. So we focus on the different pillars of health: nutrition, mindfulness, as I mentioned, physical activity, and sleep, hydration. Yeah. And we make it fun because employees are busy. They want fun. They want something easy. They want accessible. We use an app, and it's been a lot of fun. This has been in practice for 12 years. I've been doing this for 2 years, and I partner with another company doing this.
Wow. Here's a really funny and scary thing. So, and funny now that you kind of mentioned this stuff. So I used to work years ago. It was before COVID. It feels like so long ago. But I used to actually work in corporate. It's a business called Corporate Wellness, which actually we went to actual businesses to actually connect with other type of like, different types of people that like, doctors and physicians, and they connected. And every time when I was always near the snack room, I always observe what was in the snack room. And they had like chips, Reese's, water. I mean, they had water, I guess, and then they had coffee, but it was all like just garbage. And like, we helped try to take care of them. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like some of the corporate wants to make them fatter and just like, make them not actually healthy. And it's kind of interesting that I guess you have to ask about the mission of why it's important, but it's pretty scary kind of like, to think that like all these businesses that have food there, like I even look at like, I don't know if you ever see some of these tech people, like, they have Google, Facebook, like they have like a whole buffets, but that's kind of still even, there's some healthy stuff, I guess, here and there, but like, it's most of it's garbage. Like, it's just like, kind of like not really the best things for you. You know what I mean? So it's kind of fascinating to me.
You're right. And a lot of times, the company thinks it's like a treat for the employees, and it is viewed as a treat. But when we really think about it, and when when they want to make their employees healthier and work with them, then it's even more of a treat when they replace those items with bananas and fruit and nuts and seeds and different things like that, pretzels, things of that nature.
Yeah. So it's it's really wild to me how just there's so much, especially now in the world, there's just so much things inside of foods that we don't think about. And then I was watching, I don't know if you're on TikTok or on Instagram a lot, but like I have some people that I follow who, this one guy, he actually pours on a cup, like what's in like a Doritos and just shows like acidic acids and this acid and this and corn syrup. And like, it just fills up this cup and it's like really wild. I'm like, dude, that's just nasty,
It is mind blowing. It is mind blowing. And I think Instagram and TikTok and some of the other social media sites, they've exposed a lot of the ingredients that we're consuming. And every time I see something, I have 6 people in my family that automatically get every one of those videos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please watch these. It's so important because it's going to make you think twice before you grab certain foods.
Yeah. It's amazing like how much just America has just like kind of fallen into like, I remember, my dad would tell me like, everyone would be all skinny and like, exercise. And I was like, it wasn't like, weightlifting wasn't really huge quite yet, but it was like everyone wasn't really fat or obese or anything. And now we kind of suffer from it from like between the kids and just everything that kind of goes on. And it's just, and I guess it kind of leads to my next question. I find it's definitely more of a disciplinary thing of anybody who's doing a diet or some type of thing. Like, what is your take? Like, what do you think people should do in order to be a disciplined type person? Like, can you name like, I guess 3 things a person can do that would really help them be disciplined in how they eat?
Absolutely. I tell all my clients, I want you to identify what your motivation is. Mm-hmm. Why do you want to be healthier? Why do you want to drop 10 pounds? And why is that important? So in the instance, I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to feel good by the summertime. Well, why is that important to you? Well, I want to feel more confident when I put on a bathing suit or when I go to the wedding in June. Okay. Why? Why is that important to you? Well, because I'll feel better. I'll want to talk to more people. I'll just feel, all around healthier, more confident. Okay. I want you to write that down. I want you to write down exactly what you just told me, right? That's number 1. And I want you to refer to that during your weaker moments. Number 2, I want you to replace anything that's tempting with something that's not tempting. So in the case like, oh my God, my kids keep coming home with chocolate chip cookies, making this up.
Yeah.
Tell your kids they have to hide those chocolate chip cookies, or maybe they might want to join you and get rid of the cookies because even though they don't want to lose the weight, maybe it's because we all want to be healthier. Okay. Right. So remove the distractions, remove the teas. And then the third thing is put a picture on, this is one of the many things I would say, but the third thing is put something on your refrigerator that's going to remind you, or in your kitchen, that's going to remind you of what your goal is, why it's important. Because as you are in that kitchen a million times during the day, you're going to see, maybe it's a picture of a bride, okay? And because you're going to a wedding, or maybe it's a quotation that's going to be impactful. those are three of the things. But I think the main thing is that you have to know what your motivation is, what your why is. Keep it fresh. I tell people to put it on their phone, put it on the mirror when they're brushing their teeth, that they're looking at it. But that's the thing, because everything else is relevant and important. But unless you're really dig down and deep inside, they might end up like me. And what I mean by that, Josh, is throughout my entire life, I was a roller coaster dieter. Okay. Whether I wanted to lose 2 pounds or 15 or 20. Okay. But
Right.
it wasn't until my physician said, you are pre-diabetic. I'm like, me? I'm like, I exercise, I eat healthy, and your BMI is high. At that point, he said, you don't want to be following your family's footsteps with the amputations due to diabetes and so forth and so on. I'm like, you're darn right. I don't want to. And that was my motivation. And at that point, within a month and a half, I was at my goal. After I had the blood work taken a few months later, I found I was no longer pre-diabetic. I was normal. So that motivation, that why is so important.
Right. Do you find that a lot of the things that people have in terms of like conditions that they have in the body, or like, besides their weight, obviously, but people have, preconditions to their body that, like, let's say like sclerosis or just like other mental aspects. Like, do you find that, and I've heard of this before, do you find that people who, the way they eat is actually the way their body is treating them? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but does that, yeah.
It does make sense to me. And I think what we eat can definitely affect a tremendous amount of our mental health, our brain health, and our physical health.
Right.
I've studied under Amen clinics. Dr. Daniel Amen, one of the world's leading neuropsychiatrists. And that's one thing that he talks about. Like, we can get into control of our health, our brain health, and what we eat, how we exercise, sleep, and other components, supplements, that all can play a role in possibly changing, the future of the trajectory of whatever we've been diagnosed with.
Nice.
It can play a role.
That's great. And I would love to hear from you, like, any success stories you've had, like in any businesses that you've helped or any people that you've helped with your programs. Cause I'm kind of curious, like, what makes yours different than other people's? I know, obviously, besides my stepmother, but like, there's a lot of people who do health programs. So what makes yours different than a lot of other people?
I think what makes it different from other people is that and I'm sure there's a lot of other people who do really, really one-on-one coaching, meaning I like to get to know who the person is, and I also like to know who the corporation is. I want to know who the people are that I'm working with. But let me talk about the individual.
Yeah.
I think it's super important to get to know that person, what their motivation is, what their desires are. And I had an individual, I will of course not mention his name, and he had come to me over a year ago, and he said, I need to lose weight. I need to get healthy. And I said, we talked, I got to know him a lot more. And he said, I want my confidence to be stronger. I want to believe in myself. And a year later, 68 pounds down from the last weigh-in. And he's taking a trip on his own, to Europe by himself. And he's going to be meeting with a whole bunch of people he's never met. So he joined a group trip. That was huge because we had worked through a lot of mindset issues too. It wasn't just about what are you putting in your mouth. It was also about him. I was listening to him and I'm like, I think a trainer would be a really, really great addition to what you're doing right now. And he got a trainer. And I couldn't be more proud of him and the fact that Europe is right there and he's going there with people he doesn't know. Confidence is higher, taking classes now. So it's not just about the eating. Okay. That's one success story. Another success story that I'd like to share is somebody who said that they wanted to lose some weight, and they want to go in for a special operation, but they couldn't do it without losing the weight. And with that, they had a very social life. They like to go out on the weekends, which, kudos to them. That's what they enjoy. But we had to work very closely together as to how they were going to manage at the age of, in their 20s, how they were going to manage, I don't want to use the word peer pressure, but it is peer pressure in a way. Okay. Right. And this person was able to overcome those battles. It wasn't easy. And I said, every time that, you go out in the weekend, if you make a decision, I said, that's your decision. I said, then I want you to look forward into the front mirror, not in the back rear view mirror. And so we kept working in that way. So she did end up having surgery, and there was some cancer there.
Yeah.
The cancer has been removed. And so she's doing well now. And in terms of, companies, I've been talking to, I've been doing talks and trainings, and the feedback I've been getting about the mindset and the mindset talks and the behavior pairing and the habit stacking, has been very, very positive. These companies have also invited me back to speak on different topics. And the whole goal is we want happier, healthier employees. I'm working one-on-one with some of these employees, and I'm seeing success. I'm seeing that, they're changing, they're exercising more. Some of them are sleeping better. One girl told me she cleaned out her whole pantry. She said it was loaded with garbage. Yeah. And so she said that in front of a whole group of people too. And so I was thrilled to hear that.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time you kind of given me and my audience here to kind of understand about, I guess, the corporate world / health and fitness and, coaching on all this stuff. So I guess before we end off here, I'd love for people to kind of reach out to you and just get to know you better, or maybe just reach out and learn about your services. Where's a good place for people that can reach out to you and find out more about you?
So they can go to my website, and that's www.healthygoalshealthyliving.com.
Awesome. Well, Dawn, I really appreciate the time you kind of given me and just asking a lot of questions. And of course, I thank everyone here for listening to this. If you guys like this stuff, please again, like and subscribe to this. And if you guys want to see more content like this, please do let me know. And Dawn, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Josh. It's been an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
You're welcome.